And welcome back to Backspace Academy. In this hands-on session, I'm going to demonstrate how to use the Elastic Beanstalk service to launch multiple environments and then use those multiple environments in a blue-green deployment to update our code. Okay, so starting off in the Elastic Beanstalk Management Console, this time I'm going to go to the top right-hand side here and click on Create New Application. We'll just give our application a name. And click on Create. And so that will create a base Elastic Beanstalk application. And we can create environments that go or that are associated with that application. So we'll do that now. So we just go to Actions and Create Environment. It's a web server environment. And we'll leave the environment name, or we'll give it environment-1, that's fine. Our platform will be Node.js. And we're still again going to just use a sample application. And we're not going to configure any more options. We just want to launch this to a single instance to make it quite quick and easy. So we'll create that environment. Now, while that environment is creating, we'll just jump back into our blue-green application. And I'm going to create another environment. And we'll call this one environment 2. And exactly the same as before, a Node.js application. And again, we'll use the sample application as before, and we won't configure any more options, and we'll create that environment. So we have two identical environments that will be launched right now. Okay, so after quite a few minutes, we're going to have our second environment up and running. And if we click on the URL for that environment, we can see there we've got our AWS sample code for Node.js. If we go back into our application here, our blue-green application, we can see our two environments. If we click on our first environment that we created, we should be seeing the same thing as well. And that's fine. So what we need to do now is go back into our application and we look at application versions. And so there we can see is that the AWS sample application has been deployed to both of these environments over here. So environment 1 and environment 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download that. So I'll just click on that. And that'll take us to the documentation. And we can download the sample Node.js application from there. So I'll just click on that and download that. Now, after I've downloaded and extracted that zip file, what I can do then is that I can look at modifying this code. So I'm just going to open up this index.html and just going to edit it in Notepad. And I'm just going to scroll down to where it says the text column, and I'm just going to change the background color of that to, it's currently green. I'm just going to change that to blue and then save that. And then what I'm going to do is to zip that back up again. So I just select everything. And zip that. So what I can do now is I can upload that updated code to Elastic Beanstalk, and we should have a blue application going there. So I'm going to do that to the second environment. So I click on the Environments tab here, and I'll select the second environment. And I'm going to upload and deploy our new code. So I'll just click on that. I'll choose that file. And deploy that. Now, after a certain amount of time, we're going to have that deployed on our second environment. But I'll give it a try now. If I click on this endpoint, we hopefully have a blue. Yes, we have a blue background there now. So we changed our code. We updated that to the second environment, and there we can see that it has come through fine. If we go back to our first environment, that will still be green. So just say that we have our domain name that is pointed to this endpoint here. And what we want to do is that we don't want to go into Route 53 and change CNAMEs and whatever and muck around like that. We just want a very quick way to swap over from our production environment to our development environment, and then make our development environment our production environment. And so the quickest way to do that is with Elastic Beanstalk by doing a URL swap. And it'll swap the URL for this environment to the other environment. So then your domain that is being pointed to this URL will all of a sudden be pointed to the other environment. So let's give that a go. So what we do is we go on to Actions, and then we do Swap Environment URLs. And so that's going to swap this endpoint here for the endpoint of the other environment. So we select there, environment number 2 is at the environment that we want to swap to. And we click on Swap. And that will take a while to happen. So after a few minutes, we're going to see that the URLs for these two environments have swapped. So now our environment number 1, which had our green background, is now going to be pointing at the URL that was previously for environment number 2. And we can see there, env-2. Now if we go to the second environment, so remember this is the environment that had the blue background, it is now pointing, or is now using the URL for the first environment. So if we've got our domain name pointed to this URL here now, that means that all of a sudden we're going to get the updated code and it's going to happen instantaneously. So if we click on that, we should get a blue background. And there we go. So we have our environment 1, or that was originally our environment 1 URL, is now pointing to the environment number 2, which has our blue background. So that's how a blue-green deployment works. And obviously our environment number 1, or our original environment, will now become our development environment, and vice versa. And so that's the way it works. So what we can do now is that we can clean this all up. And again, we go to all applications and delete that application and delete. So it'll delete the application and it will delete those two environments as well. So we can just check on that. We can see that it's terminating those environments. So that brings us to the end of a pretty long hands-on session. I don't expect you to do this yourself. It's not a lab, because there's quite a little bit going on here, but it's good to understand exactly how a blue-green environment works. I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.